This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Steve Riley of L.A. Guns. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing good, brother. Good to be on your show.
Hey, thanks for being here. If I knew absolutely nothing about L.A. Guns, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I would say that, we're just a hard rock band out of L.A. from the 80s, and we're part of that whole Sunset Strip movement that happened in the 80s, and we're still going, man.
Absolutely, and on November 13th, you released Renegades through Golden Robot Records.
Right.
I played that album. I felt like I was right back in 1989. It had that sound. Every song was like a single. You guys killed it on this one, and I'm not even kissing your butt. I was so impressed after the first play. I'm still singing along with the songs, and I'm just learning what the words are.
Oh man, that's great. Just to hear that, I'm so glad you liked the album, and so many of the reviews and the fans, they really like it a lot. So it just makes us feel really good.
Now, do you guys collaborate when it comes to songwriting, or is there a main songwriter?
Yeah, and if you saw any of the liner notes or any of the credits, all four of the band members are songwriters on all the songs. What we do is all four of us are songwriters, and we brought in songs or the gist of a song, and then the band, we would finish it together, and we all share credit on it. And we're really fortunate. All four guys are songwriters and have a wealth of material on their own. You know what? What we did, too, was at the beginning of the year, we were very fortunate, first of all. We finished the album in December 2019. We toyed around with the idea of maybe doing it this year. Thank God we didn't do that because it would have been very difficult. All four of us, we live all over the country. I'm in L.A. Kelly Nichols is in New York. Kurt, the singer, Kurt Folick, he's in Florida. And Scotty Griffin's in Vegas, in Las Vegas. So we're all over the place, and what we did was when we were going to release the album this past March 2020, and 2020, and we found out in February that all of our dates were going to go down this year. They were going to be postponed, not canceled, and pushed into this next year. And when we found that out, we went into a different mode, George. We said, let's release a single every 2.5 months, and we knew everybody was going to be home, no concerts, and maybe we can give the fans something new to look forward to every couple of months. And that's what we did. We went into a different mode and released 4 singles throughout the year up until now, November 13th, and the full album.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, I think with the way that music is released today, that's kind of what you have to do. It's not like the old days where, you put everything together, you put it all out in one package, you tour, you put together another album.
Exactly.
Everybody's streaming.
Totally, man. And, we have we've already latched onto the internet as far as having websites and Facebook pages and all of that. But what we did this year, last year in 2019, when we were going to do a pre-production, you're on a short budget, you're on a short time frame. So what we did was we really utilized the internet by exchanging files and doing a pre-production pretty much over the internet. And we did that for about 2 months. It's something I had never done before, and it worked out really good. We exchanged songs between each other and ideas on how we could finish them. And then I had everybody fly out to L.A. in November, and we did a couple of days of real pre-production together and right into the studio to do 2 weeks of recording and mixing and mastering.
You actually released that in the footage to the video Crawl.
That's exactly right. That was us, and that was us doing the pre-production, the beginning of the video. We were in the rehearsal studio. It was great finally getting into the studio together because we had just been exchanging files and songs and ideas. And then when they came out, we did almost 2 days of morning to night pre-production on getting together. That's at the beginning of Crawl, us in a rehearsal studio, and then it shows us going right into the recording studio that third day and doing 7 days straight of recording. So it was a definitely different kind of approach to an album that I've ever had, but it kind of worked out good. We were on a tight schedule, and I think we kind of captured something really raw on the album too.
Like I said earlier, I absolutely agree. It's a great album from top to bottom. You guys do have plans to tour on it next year, at least tentatively?
Yes, we do. You know, like I said, like every other band too, I don't think any of the dates were canceled. Maybe one or two of some of the smaller club dates, but all of the festivals, fairs, and casinos that we were going to do, they were just pushed into 2021. We start up in March. So what we're going to do is we're going to maybe, for some fans that don't buy the whole album, they like buying singles, we might release another single in January and then another one in March, and then we will go out and start our dates in March, and we start right up, and we got our fingers crossed that everything goes smooth, and who knows, it might be pushed back because of the vaccine and maybe some fears of people going out right now. But right now, I've got like a full schedule in front of me for 2021, and we can't wait to get out there. I mean, once these concerts start going again, it's going to be a blast, but we just got our fingers crossed for when it starts up.
Have you guys considered one of those Zoom kind of concerts, maybe like a lower key one?
You know what? We considered maybe not doing a full show, but we were considering doing a couple of things on the internet, which now that the album's out, we might do that. We were going to do an acoustic crawl where the four of us are on the screen together playing and in separate locations, and maybe even do something else too like that. But maybe a couple of songs. We haven't really considered doing a full show because we do have everything coming up in March, and that's pretty close right now, so we're going to just wait it out and see what happens.
Scotty Griffin and Kurt Froelich are new to the band. How did they get involved with L.A. Guns?
Well, you know, Kelly and me, obviously, we were together from the very beginning, and we were battery mates in the rhythm section and best friends and co-songwriters on everything early. So when Kelly came back to the band, Scotty Griffin had been playing bass in the band while Kelly was out.
Okay.
And Scotty's like a multi-instrumentalist and really talented guy, but he's really a lead guitar player, and he was very smart. He took the gig as a bass player because we were touring and recording, and it was just a smart move on his end, and he played bass really great. When Kelly came back, I asked Scotty, why don't you play lead guitar with us? You're really, really good, and that's where you belong. And so it was a great decision. He was jazzed about it. And Kurt Froelich is somebody that we were all prepared to do the audition thing, you know, and that's a grueling thing trying to find a lead singer. And we didn't have to do that. I had a friend in Vegas that told me about Kurt Froelich, and he said, you got to check this guy out. I know you're going to be looking for a singer. And he said, and he was the very first guy that we checked out, and we lucked out because he turned out to be a tremendous singer, really great songwriter, and he plays all of the rhythm guitar, all of the acoustic guitar that you hear on the album, and the rhythms that he's playing those. So we just really lucked out by finding Kurt and not having to go through, and Scotty playing lead. We didn't have to go through any process of auditioning anybody, so it was great.
Now, we're going to go a little bit back in time here. Last year was the 30th anniversary of Cocked and Loaded by L.A. Guns, and that was the first full album that you played on.
Right.
What do you remember about that time period of recording the album and touring on that album?
Well, you know, we were just coming off. I had joined the band right out of W.A.S.P. I joined the band, and I got out of W.A.S.P. in '87, and like 2 months later, I was in L.A. Guns. They were big fans of W.A.S.P., and they knew that I was out of the band. They asked me to join right before the first album was released, and that's why my photo was on the first album. I was recording Live in the Raw with W.A.S.P. when they were recording the first L.A. Guns album. So right before it got released, I joined the band. That's why my photo's on the album. And we did the full world tour for that, almost like, I tell you, about a year and a half. We were on the road all over the world, and we came off that tour, George, we just so in sync and so dialed in with each other. And the first album had been doing really good, so we went into the studio with Tom Werman, and it was just a really great period for the band doing that album. We had written some great material. The pre-production and the recording of the album went so smooth, and a lot of our big hits are off that first album. Our big videos too, with Rip and Tear, Ballad of Jane, I Want to Be Your Man, Never Enough. A lot of the stuff that the fans love from the old days was on that album too. So it was just a great period for the band, and I just have really good fond memories of recording that album.
Now, you mentioned you had joined L.A. Guns just after you left W.A.S.P, and this year is actually the 35th anniversary of The Last Command by W.A.S.P. And what do you remember about working on that album and touring on that album?
You know what? And it's really ironic because it's just a similar situation as L.A. Guns. I was in the studio recording with Keel, The Right to Rock, and with Gene Simmons. And while I was recording that album, W.A.S.P was recording their first album. And so when they finished recording that album, they let their drummer go. Very similar to L.A. Guns. They let their drummer go too, right after he recorded that first album with them. And so I got a call from Blackie, and I joined W.A.S.P, and I did that first whole world tour with them too. And it was just identical to what I did with L.A. Guns. About a year and a half touring on the first album. We went in to do The Last Command, and we were in that same mode as when I did the L.A. Guns album, Cocked and Loaded. The Last Command, the original W.A.S.P was still together. We were just dialed in and psyched about that first tour and how the first album did well. And I just think that album, too, was a special album that I did with W.A.S.P. It was probably two of the biggest hits that the band had, with Wild Child and Blind in Texas and Sex Drive. It was just a lot of really great songs, and it was a great time too to be in the studio with the band because we were just dialed in with each other.
Now, at that time during The Last Command and everything, was the PMRC thing going on where Tipper Gore was trying to, did you personally get hit in the crossfire there? Because I read that, W.A.S.P was getting death threats and all this other garbage.
Yeah, it's really weird when you think about that, because when Tipper Gore and all of those people in Washington came down on metal and rock for the lyrics and the content and made us all put stickers on the album, it was a plus. It was a boom for all the bands, because all the kids absolutely wanted to buy an album that their parents were wary of. And so everybody really, all our sales shot up, and it was just a really good kick in the butt for everybody, because like I said, when you put that sticker on there, the kids want to buy it because it's so controversial. And it really isn't controversial. It was really pretty tame, but they really did us a favor by doing that. And yeah, W.A.S.P was one of the very focal points of their meetings and all the stuff that was going on in Washington, D.C. They were holding up the album for W.A.S.P and the single with a saw blade, and it was just something that helped us out in a big way. It was publicity up the yahoo for everybody, and it was just something that we couldn't thank them enough for.
Well, it's funny because that's more of a right place, right time thing. I think today, if that was going on, it would go in the opposite direction.
Oh, man, totally. Today is so politically correct, and if you had that situation now, today, it's funny, too, because all of the 80s stuff from L.A., I was talking to a couple of people about this the other day. That happened during the Reagan era too, and you would think that some kind of a movement like the L.A. scene, and there was two movements out of L.A. too, and I was kind of fortunate to be in both movements. I was in that first movement with W.A.S.P, Motley Crue, and Dawkins, and Great White, and Rat, and all of those bands, and I'm really good friends with all those guys. And we were on the road so much and working so much, we didn't realize a second wave of metal rock was coming out of L.A. with Guns N' Roses and L.A. Guns and Faster Pussycat, Jet Boy. We didn't even know about that, but I was fortunate to be involved with both waves, and I don't think any other city really had that length of a wave of music coming out from 82 to 92. It's usually like a 5-year period, like the grunge thing in Seattle. It was strong for about 5 years. Something out of Detroit, something out of New York. It usually lasts about 5 years, and this LA scene lasted for 10 straight years where we were all dominating the charts and all over MTV and touring all the time. So, it's just funny looking back that all of that happened during the Reagan-Bush thing, and you would think that it might have been impossible with that kind of government in there, and it wasn't. It was very loose, and we just had a blast.
You were also on another Key album. It's the 35th anniversary of. You were on Keel's Right to Rock in 1985. And what do you remember about that? Did he steal you from some other band?
Yeah, and you know what? I got to tell you, you got to have talent, obviously, but you got to have a lot of luck and timing on your side too. And I was very lucky with my timing during the 80s to go from one band to another with 3 separate bands, and the Keel thing was something that they did almost the same thing, but they didn't record their album yet. But they had a drummer that they had right up until they were going to go in the studio with Gene Simmons. They were on A&M Records, and somebody told me about that. I had been doing session work out in L.A., and they said, call this band Keel. They're getting ready to go record with Simmons, and they were on A&M Records, and I called them, and fortunately I got the gig right before they were going to record the album. I did like 2 weeks of pre-production with them, and I went into the studio with Gene Simmons, and we recorded the album. It was a great experience, and the band were great guys, and the whole situation was a great situation, being on A&M Records, working with Gene Simmons and the Keel guys doing this album. I recorded all of my drum tracks. Right after I recorded my drum tracks, we were still in the record plant out here in L.A., and I got a call from Blackie, and that was when he asked me to come by his place, listen to the W.A.S.P album, and that, I had to make a tough decision. Do I stay with Keel because they got such a great situation and the album was turning out great, and or do I go with W.A.S.P? And looking back, I think I made the right decision, but I have nothing but real great memories of making that album. I still revisit it, and I love it. It's a great metal album, and I think the fans of Keel really love that album too, and fans of metal really love that album. I thought Gene Simmons did a great job on it.
Absolutely. I actually interviewed Ron Keel last week.
He's still a great friend, and I saw him. The last time I actually saw him was a couple of years ago. We were both on with the Rock Cruise, and I actually went up there and sat in to do the Right to Rock with them, and those are all great guys in Keel, and they were all still really good friends of mine.
So the 80s rock scene was known for its debauchery and its excess. What was the craziest thing Steve Riley did back in the 80s?
Oh, man. There was, being in those 3 bands, there was so many crazy things. I'll tell you what, I don't think that I could top being as crazy as you can get by being on stage with W.A.S.P during the first tour, and that was when Blackie was throwing the meat out at the audience. and I think that might have been the top craziest thing that I had been involved with. Obviously, there was a lot of debauchery and a lot of crazy partying and touring with some unbelievable acts, but that right there is something that, I still put on Live at the Lyceum because they captured that whole show in London when we played there, and he's throwing the meat out, and I think that might be wear the crown of being the craziest, being behind Blackie while he's throwing meat at the crowd.
So I got to ask you this question because I was too young to see W.A.S.P back in 1985 and stuff like that, but I saw them in a little club in Connecticut in the 2000s, and Blackie played a porno movie in the background of Fuck Like a Beast, and I was just wondering if that's something he did back in the 80s.
He didn't. No, we didn't have any video or any back video on that. And I don't know if we even needed it back then, too, because what we were doing was just so outrageous anyways. And we had the girl on the rack, and he would cut her throat, and then the meat, and then the skulls all over the stage moving back and forth. So we didn't have any video back then, but I know Black since then has incorporated video in there. And I actually heard too, because I've only seen Blackie a couple of times since I've been out of the band, but we're still good friends. And but I also heard that he has cut out a lot of that stuff. Like he won't play Fuck Like a Beast or any of those songs anymore.
Yeah.
I think he's became a born again Christian. I'm not sure if that's true, but I heard that he cut his set down so that the songs that he's doing right now are less abrasive, a good way to put it.
Yeah. I think I read an interview with him that he's doing that, and I read his reasons, and I thought his reasons were well put.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's into that mode right now, and he's got such a wealth of material too that he could do that. But a lot of the really great stuff that we did too were like Tormentor and stuff like that. And I don't know if he plays any of those songs anymore, but I sure had a blast playing all those songs. I thought they were great.
Now, I noticed that Steve Riley has a little movie role in the movie Rightful.
Yeah, but the movie Rightful, and they're still, right now, I think it's all completed, and actually I know it's completed, and they're doing the distribution thing, which isn't easy right now with the theaters all closed down. But yeah, that was a strange thing. I got approached by the writer-producer from the movie, and his name is Stephen George, and he approached me and asked me if I could put a couple of songs in the movie, if I had a couple of songs I'd like to place. And it started off like that, and I got the couple songs in there and that I had been sitting on, and they worked well with the movie. And when I was meeting with him and the director, they asked me to read for a part, and I've never been in a movie, and I said absolutely, I'd love to read for a part. And it takes place in the South, and you got to use a Southern accent, and they asked me to read for a part, and I read for it, and I got it. They gave it to me, and they flew me to New Orleans, and I shot for I think 2 days, maybe 3 days, and I got this part in the movie, and it was like it was just a gas doing it, man. And I wondered if I was going to end up on the floor, cut out of the movie, and both my scenes are in there. So it was pretty cool, man, getting that part and the way it came together too. But I got a couple of songs in there and a couple of scenes in there too, and it was pretty cool doing it.
Do you see yourself doing anything else like that in the future?
You know what? I told them, I said, man, this has been so much fun. And even if it's me just in the future placing songs, I'd like to do that with you and work with you that way. But I would love to read for parts. And the director, he liked it so much what I did, and I was surprised, but he liked it so much that what I did, he said, absolutely, when I move on to another movie, if I see a role for you, I definitely want you to read for it. So, yeah, I would definitely try it again because it was so much fun. I didn't realize how hard that situation is with acting and sitting around and waiting. It's a totally different mode than making music, and just learning your lines and hitting your spot and doing all of that. It's just an amazing feat that actors have, and I can't imagine somebody with a lot of dialogue how they have to memorize these scripts, and it's not easy, and I have a lot of respect for them. And but I tell you what, I did that, and I'm also working on a documentary too that I've been working on for like about a couple of years now, and I started incorporating some of the people from the movie Rightful, and they're going to work with me on it. And it's a documentary about all the singers from the 90s that passed away. It's just an amazing story that all of these great lead singers, there's like 9 of them, and they all passed away in some form or another, either drug overdose or suicide. And that whole generation, how they lost their voice because of all these singers dying. So I'm putting this documentary together too. So I've been working on that too.
Yeah, it sounds great, actually.
Yeah, so with Lane Staley and Kurt Cobain and all of those guys, it's a ton of great singers, and they're all gone now. And it's just, it's an amazing story because all the 60s, 70s, and 80s singers are still alive. But when you look at the 90s, all those singers are gone right now. And it's just an insane story.
Now, I noticed that you're doing the cameo thing where people can request a phone call from Steve Riley. Have you got any crazy requests?
Yeah, I have, man. And, you know, what they do is they send me exactly pretty much what they want me to say for whoever they're going to send it to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just write it down and I get on the phone, and it's a crazy thing, man. And, you know, I don't charge that much. Some people charge like hundreds of dollars, and I don't charge like that. And, but I've done the cameo thing, and the people say it's just a great gift. And for like fans of the bands that I've been in, for me to do a FaceTime cameo for them and wish them happy birthday. And it's just fun, man. It's like, you know, I haven't gotten a ton of them, but, you know, I've done them, and it's pretty fun.
All right, last question. What would it take, or what can be done to get the 2 LA Guns back together?
Well, I tell you what, brother, you know, since 2006, I've been dealing with the 2 LA Guns. I think everybody knows I'm the only member that went straight through. I've been with every form of LA Guns, whether it was the classic lineup or Tracy and me alone doing albums, or Phil and me doing albums alone with just the two of us. And I've dealt with that since 2006. I've never stopped being in LA Guns, and
right.
I've run the business and side of it, and I've always tried to keep the classic lineup together, telling them that we got a great thing and we could do this forever. We could tour the world. We got a great catalog to lean on, and we could always get record deals too. But you know, I don't know. I think that what they're doing, they're happy with, and what me and Kelly are doing, we're happy with too. So, you know, we're going to just try to coexist. I think that what we're doing too, George, is making sure that whatever we do, we make sure we put our names on it so they know it's me and Kelly.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get around any confusion, and I know there is confusion with 2 bands, but we just got to try to deal with it right now. There's not a lot that we can do about it, and I don't know. I'm always into classic lineups being together. I'm always have my door open for the whole 5 of us to get together with Mick Cripps, and I would never turn that down. But, you know, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So Kelly Nichols and myself, we're just going to barrel on, try to write new material, try to stay creative. And, you know, like I said, we co-wrote all of the old stuff with the guys. All 5 of us wrote that together, all of the songs. And Kelly's like a great songwriter. He wrote Ballad of Jane, and he wrote Crawl and Well-Oiled Machine and Renegades. So he's like a really prolific songwriter. He's my best friend. Mm-hmm. We're just going to try to coexist right now, but I never say never to anything.
Excellent. It's nice talking to you today, Steve. I think we learned a lot today.
Right on, George. I appreciate the support, brother, and it was great talking to you. I know that it's difficult for fans to find, with no record stores around, and how to find the album. I just want them to know they can see all of our dates that we've got coming up and how to order the album. There's fun videos up there. Just to go to laguns.net and you can really find out anything Kelly Nichols and myself are doing. And like I said, all our dates are going to be up there, and just how to order the album. It's an easy way to find out stuff on what's going on with us right now.
Excellent. Thanks for talking with Metal Express Radio.
George, thanks again, brother, and be safe, and I hope to see you on tour real soon, brother.